So welcome Year 8s back to Mr. Alley's Computing Lessons Online. Got a great day planned for you today, got a great lesson, and I have great news coming up. Firstly, the audio problems we've had in times past have mostly been solved, but I've got better news. I have a webcam coming, which means that the lag time on the video is going to go away. This webcam will be less than 10 years old in this case, and it will be HD video, it's got stereo mics, it's got some cool features, so all that's going to be great. In addition, I'm sure you saw the razzle dazzle at the beginning of the video. Got some more when the video ends, and next week, the weeks after, we've got additional superb features we're going to be putting into the videos just to break it up and make it a bit more interesting and to add to the entertainment value. So get in touch with the chat, get in touch with email, let me know what you think, give me some recommendations, and tell me how you YouTubers out there do it correctly. Moving smartly along, got some big ups today. Well done to Martin, who did some superb work on the Hour of Code challenge. But I want to give a golden ticket away to Sahela, who finished it. So if you come over here, there's her trophy right there. Congratulations. End of this part. I am finished with my Hour of Code. Well done, Sahela. Keep an eye on this young lady, because some of you might be working for her one day. She's doing really, really well in computing. She's done brilliantly on the Hour of Code. But carrying smartly along, we have some great lesson today. Today, I want to teach you effectively 2 lessons of Year 8 Python, Year 8 programming, Year 8 computing, with a bit of GCSE learning involved, with, in addition to that, a bit of A-level Python programming. It will be completely understandable. You'll get it, really. It's not rocket science, but because Mr. Alley's teaching it, it's completely accessible. And we're going to do it in about 15 minutes. So let's jump in, let's move smartly along, and I want to go over here and show you what we have on REPL. Fade across. Here's my REPL and my REPL account. You can see up here you've got Mr. Alley, and if you go to repl.it at Mr. Alley, this is Year 8 Lesson 1. You can look at this anytime. I don't need to share it with you. You can just have a peek, see what it looks like. But we're going to start out with the classic hello world. So I'm going to run the print command, hello world. When I do this, it's going to print out hello world. It's a long-time classic from the programming world. People from the depths of time when things started out in the 40s and 50s and 60s. This is one of the first programs they would write. This is how you test to see whether A, your development environment is working correctly, but also whether you've typed in your code correctly. So, hello world, and over here you can see I'm putting some comments in using the print command to generate output. And that is very useful. I'm going to be commenting up all the code we have today later on, so you can go back to my REPL anytime and look at that, see what it is, what it does, and give you some helps and hints for your programming as well. Now, what we've done here is I've used a print command, and the print command is a function. The print doesn't print to a printer. In computing speak, things work slightly differently from printing. When we print to a piece of paper, we print a book, or we print a document physically, this uses what's called CMYK, or as black, yellow, magenta, and cyan, which have specific colors, but also when they print in tangible format in the real world to document to paper, this prints literally ink onto a piece of paper or to a material of some sort. In computing speak, in computerese, when we print to screen. So when we print, you're going to see the output here on the screen. It says hello world. So just to clarify that, print though in Python is what's called a function. It's a built-in function, and it is a reserved word. So when we use the word print, that has specific background code that does a as it were a function. There are other functions that we're going to use. I'm going to show you one later on called input, but the important thing to remember is that these function words are what's called reserved words, and I'll show you how to find these in just a moment. But reserved words can't be used as variables. They can't be used in other ways other than as function. So if I misspell that though, let's come over here and comment out this code. If I misspell it and say print with P-R-I-M-T and run hello world, I'm going to get an error message. And the nice thing about REPL, the nice thing about Python, is these error messages are mostly very helpful. So the traceback is going to go back and find where the last bit was in the code that didn't work correctly. It's looking in the file main.py, and that's what we're running here. This is our entire program, main.py. And it says the file on line 2 didn't work, and it says print hello world. The name error is the name print, P-R-I-M-T, is not defined. So if I've printed this out, it shows an underlining here. That means something's wrong. If I hover over it, it will give you some hints. Undefined name print. So it tells me I need to sort that out. There's a problem with that word. And I'm like, oh, well, I can't spell. Mr. Alley, you've been silly. So, can't edit a window. Okay, so if I say change that to print hello world, we run that again. Yes, works absolutely fine. So, let's move smartly along. That's pretty basic programming, but you can see that does work. Let's come down here and look at our first bit we want to understand today, and this is the concept of variables. Now, a variable is very simply something we can stash in code for just a bit. So, I have a little bag here. I'll show you that. So, right now the variable is the trophy. This trophy will be very important later on. I'm going to show you what that is, but I'm going to put the trophy in the bag. So, bag is the name of the variable, and the variable is trophy. So, for the moment, in the bag variable, there's a trophy. Now, if I take that trophy out, and I change that to shades, and I put shades in the bag, so now, bag equals shades. Does that make sense? So in the bag, I've got my shades, but if I take my shades out and change it back to the trophy, now the variable for bag is trophy. And let's look at how that works in Python. That may make absolutely no sense, but just think of it, a variable is just what it sounds. It can vary. It can change from one thing to another, and it's something we're stashing in memory for just a moment that we're going to use later on. So if I move back over here to my REPL, I've got a, the variable a equals hello. So if I run that, okay, a is hello. Now if I want to print a, and we run this, my variable for a is hello. So it printed the variable a. Now if I change a to something else, let's come down here and say a equals goodbye. And we print a. I should spell that correctly, I'm sure. Now if we print a, let's run it. A equals hello, and then we changed, and a equals goodbye. So if we take and remove this command, we define a as hello, then we change that to goodbye. So which are we going to get? Let's have a look. Because a was hello, then it changed to goodbye. When we print a and display it on the screen, a is going to be goodbye. Because that's what the variable is now. It's changed from one thing to another, and that's important, as we'll show you later in the lesson. So let's comment these out and look at how we can use this in different ways. Now, we're going to print the sentence, what is your name? And then we're going to define a variable first name. And first name will be an input. So this is our second function of the day. We learn print. Print prints to the screen, and it shows us what we have as a variable or an output or whatever we want to print. We're going to define our variable here, first name, and we're going to define it by what we input. Input's a function, so input can't be the variable. Input is a function that says, tell me what that first name variable should be. Then we're going to print hello and the first name variable. Is that cool? So let's see how it goes. What is your name? I'm going to type in my name, James. Let's type in hello, James. And we can do variations on that. And it's interesting, but we'll show you next week how we can use this in something we call string slicing. First, we need to find out what strings are. Secondly, we need to find out what data types are. There are other data types, including strings. Excuse me. But that's all going to come next week. We have some fun with this. I'm going to show you how to create a username, how to add a password to that, and use the username and password to log into a website or an application or whatever. In the meantime, let's look at some of the other useful functions that we can use in Python. So there's some keywords that we can't use in Python for our variables and for other uses. Some of these are called literally keywords. I'll show you how to find these in just a moment. Others are functions, or built-in functions, or they're known as built-ins. And what I will do is I will provide a list of those for you in your Teams folder. So everyone will have access to that. You can't use print, input, import, other terms like that as variables, and because they won't work, Python will throw an error. So moving along, let's look at the keywords that we can use. We can use in Python commands, but we can't use as variables. And here are some of these here. You can find these on the command line by typing help and in quotes keywords, or you can just type help. So help. Run this, and this will bring up the interactive help. So if I use something such as import, it will give me loads and loads and loads of things about how I can use the import function. That might be more of GCSE A-levels thing that you want to look at, but this is available to you. Moving along, let's look at how we can save ourselves some time with code. So we looked before up here. We printed what is your name. We input the first name. We printed hello first name. Let's look at how we can do that with one less line of code. And this is important to know that Python gives you the ability to do more with less code. So if you run this, this is going to do the same thing we had before with 2 lines rather than 3. So we enter that in. What is your name? James. Hello, James. Same as before. Now, what we can do, just a bit of a skill here, a bit of a hack, decorate it up a bit. I'm going to put a space there, and that just makes it for user experience, for the user interface, just a bit nicer. So if I rerun this, you'll see there's a bit of a space there, and it just makes it a bit nicer on the command line. So what is your name? See, there's a space there. Type my name in. Hello, James. And the first name variable now becomes James. But if I run this again, and it says, what is your name? And I say, Bob. Hello, Bob. The first name variable has been changed to Bob. So that's the thing about variables. The name James went into the variable box. When that was changed to Bob, the name James was taken out, and the name Bob is put into the variable box. So now what we want to do is take this same amount of code and extend it out. We want to make add user friendliness, we want to bring in more information, and we want to make our presentation just a bit better. So let's slide over here. Let's have a look at my REPL. And we're going to look at, we've coming out the previous code. Now we have the same first name equals input. What is your name? Let's put a bit of a space there. Print hello first name. Then we're going to set a second variable, age equals input. How old are you? Make it a bit nice. Now, here's what we're going to print out. And there's two things we have going on here. While you are, add the age variable. And secondly, we're going to add a string afterwards. So we're putting the age variable into the middle of a string where you can use it there. So let's see how this works. I'm going to run it. What is your name? How old are you? Wow, you are 27 and a bit years old. Okay. So, a couple things. One is that, let's see here, strictly speaking, that is true. Don't sue me. Secondly, we've got two sets of input. So, we've got the name and we've got an age that we're putting in. Thirdly, we're taking the, if you come over here and look at the REPL, if we take the age input, we're prepending it. We're starting the output with, wow, you are, and then adding a comma there, plus the age variable, and then after that we're adding years old and an exclamation mark. Now, here again, we can tidy up the user interface, the user experience. Let's add a space there, let's add a space there, just to make it look nice, but always in between we have the plus sign with a variable, another plus sign, and this means we're prepending it with one string, we're appending it, adding to the end with a second string. So let's run it again, see how it looks nice. Let's say, what is your name? James. Hello James, how old are you? Let's say 37 and a bit, which is slightly more honest. Wow, you are 37 and a bit years old. And you see we have the spacing there correct. We have, it just looks a bit nicer and worked nicely. Yes, so far so good. I hope everyone's with me with that. And let's have a look at a couple more things. Okay, so we were looking at variables. We understood that variables are like a bag or a box. We've got an object inside of it, and that object is what the variable is defined as. So bag equals trophy, or bag equals 5, or bag equals whatever we want it to be. That's fine. Imagine we have two bags, and in both of those bags we put something identical. Bag A equals trophy, bag B equals trophy. To Python, that's absolutely fine, because the important bit is the label that goes on it, is bag A, bag B. Let's look at that in practice and how we can use this in a program. So, slide back over to our REPL, have a look, and see that what I've got here is that variable A equals 300. Variable B equals 300. And I want to print A and B. Print both of them. So there we go. Variable A and variable B. Both are 300. Now what if I change that? And let's run it all in line. Let's say variable A is 300, variable B is 300. We're going to print that, and then in the sequence as that goes, we're going to go to variable A and change that to 400. Then we're going to print A and B again. We'll see what we get. So, in the first sequence, we define variables A and B as 300. Then we printed A and B, and we got 300, 300. After that, we changed variable A to be 400. Ooh, now the variable in bag A is 400, the variable in bag B is 300. We print them out, and you can see it's defined them as being differently. Now, there's an interesting side to this in Python, and this is something that is called optimization. So I can't do this in REPL because they don't allow us to address memory space because it's used in the cloud. So what I'm going to do is to go over here to my idle here on my workspace. Now I've made the type to be very, very big. It's not that Mr. Ali's blind, but just so it looks nice on the screen. If you have to watch this on a smartphone, so if I say A equals 300, B equals 300, then I want to ID A, and I want to ID B. Now you see there on the screen that they use the identical identification. Ooh, now what does that mean? That's got to be significant, and it is. And this is what that means, is although the variable label of A and the variable label of B is 300, they're identical with the contents of their variable. So Python optimizes this in memory. It says, hey, this is the same object. It's the same thing going on there. So why do we need to use extra memory up? Why do I need to use extra CPU cycles? Why does it? I don't need to waste space on an object that's the identical thing. So, like within our bag, if I've got a trophy in my bag, and I've got a trophy in my other bag, at the end of the day, they're both trophy. So Python says, hey, it's the same thing. I'm going to use the same object, and I'm going to reference that same object in memory. So this keeps memory small. It means your program can run faster, and that Python's very, very, very optimized and efficient. And for this reason, this is why it's been used as the program of choice for places such as Instagram, Google search results, for Fortnite, for Uber, for Pinterest, and for other big, big, big brands on the internet. Now, what if I change that object in the variable, so I redefine A, as we did before, as 400. And I ID A. Oh, now A is different. It's a separate object. If I ID B, spell it correctly, B is still the same object. It still remains the same as it was before. But A's changed to a different object. So it had to create a new object in memory and use that in Python. So Python understands this. Python knows that if it's a separate object, it has to have a separate object ID. It has to create a separate object in memory. But this is important to realize, that when your variable is identical, Python will optimize this and use it in wonderfully efficient ways. Now that's some A-level programming there. Some of your GCSE stuff you've seen is going on here too, but we'll cover that later in sixth form and show you how to use this and optimize that, possibly even in university. But you, have learned basic commands in Python. You've learned the variable command, the variable concept. You've learned the concept of input, and you've learned how that works in the background on the back end of the server when it's serving these things up. So congratulate yourself. You've learned 2 lessons worth of stuff, plus some GCSE, plus some A-level Python as you've gone along, and you're cooking on gas with programming. So let's carry on with some final thoughts, and we will see you next week. So I hope all that has made sense. I hope that it has been grasped by you. I'll leave all this up in my REPL except for the ID bits. I have to do that in idle. But for your homework this week, that will be up on MS Teams. It will be in your team space. If you have any questions, drop me an email, add some comments to your REPL, or get in the chat in Teams, ask away. You can ask me directly, or you can ask it to the wider team so that other people can see as well. I wish you all the best, and hope you are enjoying your Python. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next week. Do you remember? September, all